Dear Holodomor survivors and their families, Your Eminence Bishop Baida, Reverend Clergy, Honorable Lieutenant Governor, Deputy Premier Kravets, members of the Legislature, Senator Andrzejczuk, Mayor and councillors, community leaders, distinguished guests. Allow me to share an excerpt from the testimony of Holodomor survivor, Miss Maria Firman, which is available on a website called holodomorsurvivors.ca, which was put together by the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and hosts many testimonies of Holodomor survivors. I quote, "They told my father to take the bells down from the church. Father said, I didn't put them up and I won't take them down. So they beat him and took him to a holding cell. We didn't see him for more than 2 weeks, and when he came home, he died right away. My sister died in bed by my side, but I didn't even know she was dead. My mother wanted to give her something to eat and called, Ksenia, Ksenia. I said, she's sleeping. Mother went to her, and she was dead. When wheat or rye was harvested, they used machines and left stalks in the field. So my mother, on her way home, collected stalks in order to cook something. A Red Army brigadier took away the stalks and beat my mother. My mother came home, laid down on the bed, and never got up again. I don't know how long she laid there, but that's how she died." Ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered to commemorate the terrible tragedy of the Holodomor, where countless millions of men, women, and children were senselessly murdered through starvation by the communist regime of Joseph Stalin, and today to unveil this touching memorial that will serve to teach Canadians a valuable human rights story. In trying to understand genocide, I often ask myself, why did dictators like Joseph Stalin or Adolf Hitler seek to destroy an entire people? And why would countless collaborators do their bidding? And frankly, why is this relevant to us today? It seems so long ago. Unfortunately, more than 80 years later, the Holodomor has more relevance to Ukrainians and the world than it ever had before. At the recent Toronto annual Ukrainian famine lecture, Pulitzer Prize winner Anna Applebaum discussed how Stalin saw in Ukraine an existential threat as Putin sees in Ukraine today. Stalin launched his assault on Ukraine because he knew that Ukraine was resistant to centralized rule, that Ukrainians were attached to their land and their traditions, and that Ukrainians would challenge Bolshevism and even cause it to collapse. Today, Russia's President Vladimir Putin fears the attachments of Ukrainians to the ideas of freedom, democracy, and values like human rights. In fact, Putin's regime, as did Stalin's, cynically denies the very existence of a separate Ukrainian people. As Anna Applebaum said in her lecture, and I quote, "If Stalin feared that Ukrainian nationalism could bring down the Soviet regime, Putin fears that Ukraine's example could bring down his own regime, a modern kleptocratic autocracy." Dear friends, Ukraine today is under military, economic, and political attack by the Putin regime, much like it was under Stalin over 80 years ago. There is no civil war, nor has there ever been any separatist movement in eastern Ukraine. This is a conflict completely engineered, organized, and run by Putin's regime and is driven by an evil propaganda war. The peace and freedom-loving people of the world must boldly and actively stand up together against this great threat to global peace and security. Ukrainians have learned their lessons from the Holodomor and will not roll over to Putin's attempts to eradicate the Ukrainian nation. Just over a week ago, I visited the front lines in the Donetsk city of Mariupol, just 5 kilometers from the Russian army. I was inspired by the brave, committed, and motivated soldiers who are prepared to give their lives defending their homeland and families from Moscow's war against the Ukrainian people. I call on all of you to do all that we can every day to help the Ukrainian people defend their country and the rest of Europe from Russia's aggression. They need our military, economic, and political support. On behalf of the entire Ukrainian Canadian community, I wish to thank the people of Saskatchewan, the government of Saskatchewan, and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Saskatchewan Provincial Council, and Regina Branch for their work in permanently installing this solemn memorial to the victims of the Holodomor on these beautiful legislative grounds. Please allow me also to take this opportunity to thank and recognize Deputy Premier Ken Kravets and his wife Gail for an exemplary Ukrainian Canadian who has championed Holodomor recognition and education. He has selflessly served Canada, his home province of Saskatchewan, and his Ukrainian Canadian community. The people of Saskatchewan, I'm sure, will be sad to see you retire from the legislature, or as rumor has it, but I know the Ukrainian Canadian community has a number of opportunities lined up for you, so please don't make too many plans. Thank you, Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Saskatchewan and Regina. They have really been, in terms of our entire Ukrainian Canadian community, real leaders and continue to set new bars for our community. This was a project that was started, as we all know, by late Ed Lissick, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us in person, but I'm sure he's here with us in spirit. He is a person who's motivated all of us across the country, and we're very proud to be here today to unveil a memorial that he sought and had the vision to create. We teach these valuable human rights stories to ensure we stay vigilant and prepared to stop modern-day tyrants like Vladimir Putin, who today has unleashed a war to eradicate the Ukrainian people. Further generations must react with the same disgust to the history of Stalin, Lenin, and the hammer and sickle as we are repulsed by Adolf Hitler and the swastika. May God inspire us to do good, and may the eternal memory of the Holodomor be eternal. Vічна їм пам'ять. Thank you.